Good morning. Well, I just got my ass handed to me yesterday in Lululemon. Really, just a terrible performance on my part. I'm going to go through that briefly. Then I want to talk about these monsters of tech and how they're kind of ruling the market, and some ideas on how to kind of handle this at least a little bit better than I did yesterday. But first of all, let's take a look. I just want to go through this real quick with you, and then we'll move on to the rest of the stuff. Okay, so if we pull up Lulu. So here is the price action from yesterday. And you can see it was down right on the open, and like right essentially at the bottom here, I added to my short, right down here around 304. I added to my short, and then I think Barclays came out and reiterated a buy here, as well as I think Motley Fool like published some article telling people to buy stuff, and the rationale behind this buy stuff here is saying basically like, if the shutdown continues, which is seeming more likely, that Lululemon is going to benefit from this because they're poised to take advantage of people sitting at home with nothing to do, buying stuff online. So that's where and it was just this brutal rally where we went from like 304 up 15 points or something. And that was not good for me at all. I was short like 200 deltas the whole way up. I managed to kind of not cover until we got back down here around 314, but it still was just a brutal exercise in what not to do as a trader. So there you go. So when I come on and said I made money and I'm bragging about making money sometime, well, here's the time when I didn't make money at all. Anyway, let's look at these tech stocks because I've just added these to my watch list, which I probably should have had them on there already. But Apple, just look at this strength here with Apple. And these are the companies that are leading the market. And, you'll have a sell-off yesterday in like the Dow and other components, but these tech stocks pull it back up. And essentially, we're not going down unless these go down. So here's Apple. Let's take a look at like 180 days. Boom, right? Okay. Microsoft. Boom, right? And, Tesla is so much in the news. It's a little bit lower cap than these huge ones, but it's still significant for the market. It's kind of stalled out here for a couple of days, but after this huge move up, anyway, I'm still very bearish in the market. I feel like the death numbers are gonna tick up, and people still, it just really appears to me that people still are not taking this stuff seriously. This whole COVID thing, even in Florida, if you listen to the governor of Florida, he's talking about opening the economy, opening schools, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that this is a sticky point for a lot of people, and I want schools open as well. But the sticking point here for me is not to have schools open or not. It's just that the CDC comes out with guidelines on how we can open schools responsibly. And, the president once again turns around and just doesn't get it. And I think now when the president comes on and starts talking about COVID, people kind of tune out because they know that he's had the wrong take every time. And it's very frustrating. And it starts to feel like, look, you put everybody else's health on the line so you can get reelected. I almost wish that, like, in a way, what if we said, look, you can become president for the next 4 years if you just start acting responsibly to this crisis. Okay, so here, you can have the presidency for the next 4 years. In return, if you can just do what the scientists say and encourage people to do what the scientists say, because people listen to the president, and when he says this stuff, people listen to him, and it's causing deaths. It's causing deaths in Florida. It's causing deaths in Texas. And it's very frustrating. And the CDC's guidelines about schools were not so crazy. It was just basically social distance the kids. And, I know people are pushing back. I have people pushing back on me on Twitter they say, well, kids don't get sick from this. But the thing is, if you have people that have been social distancing with their families, keeping their families safe, and then you send the kids out into the world to school, and then they come back and they give the grandparents and the rest of the family the thing. So I want kids to go back to school. I get it. Parents don't have the ability. If their job starts up again, that's great, and they don't have the ability to go to work if the kids are home all the time. And it's something we have to deal with. Schools should open, but we need to do it safely. And it keeps being this pushback from people about like anti-science, anti-doing this safely, and it's just so frustrating to me. All right, enough ranting and raving. So, if we are going to sell off, which I'm not as convinced as before that we are going to, since I got owned yesterday, we're going to keep an eye on these big tech names because they are the capitalization of the market, and we don't sell off without them selling off. And these things have had a big run up, and they're due for a little pullback at least here. And I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, well, the XHB. This is like housing materials and stuff, home builders. We're back to where we were before the crisis started on this. I think that these theo trade guys have a point here that this can definitely pull back. Reality's got to set in that things are not as good as they were before the crisis. And this chart is saying that home building is just as good as it was before any of this stuff happened. That just doesn't seem to be reality setting in for people. That seems to be overly optimistic to me. Tech, it feels like tech people are in their own little bubble, and I can see it because you get in that bubble, you start watching CNBC, and it's like, oh yeah, Apple's great, profitability's up, blah, blah. You get all this positive stuff, and everybody's telling each other the same stuff, and everybody gets excited, and stuff's been rallying, everybody's excited, they're making money, stuff's moving up, and it's so easy to convince yourself that, like, yeah, this is, we're going to put this stuff behind us and everything's great and we're moving forward. And the same thing with Tesla. Like, oh yeah, Tesla, they're going to be their self-driving cars. And so every taxi is now going to be a Tesla car. Everything's going to be wonderful. And it's just this unbridled optimism. And it can't go on forever. So, be cautious. We're going to see there's going to be a reckoning coming. And, I was never this guy for years and years. I would just come online and I'd be like, oh, these doom and gloom people that come on and they're always bearish and they call a top every day. And then when finally there's a top, they look back and they say, see, I called it. But 199 other 1,000 times they were completely wrong. But until we stop seeing this huge rise in cases. And, that's the other thing. A huge rise in cases, it's going to inevitably mean more deaths. And people say, no, not really. Well, we've figured out how, we're doing everything better now. Does it seem to you like we're doing everything better from the evidence you have in front of you? Because it doesn't seem that way to me. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. It's just that it doesn't seem that way. So, once again, I'm still very focused on the what happens in the next stimulus thing. Okay, so once again, just to reiterate, Senate is on break until July 17th. They're probably working on it now, though, amongst themselves. There's probably going to be a deal where the Republicans get protections for companies against COVID liability in exchange for some level of this unemployment being continued. I believe now it will be more than just the one check. It will be a continued, maybe not $600, but some amount of dollars extra in people's paychecks. I think the economists are coming to them and saying, look, you got to do this, otherwise it's going to really tank the economy, A, and B, what these guys are really focused on, getting reelected. I think people are coming into Mitch McConnell's ear and saying, well, you're going to lose the Senate if the Democrats point and say Mitch McConnell's the one that stopped all these people from getting any more unemployment, they're going to lose the Senate, the Republicans. So I believe that they will give people the money, continuing to keep themselves, try to keep hold of the Senate. moving forward, and I think that's going to happen. As far as the market goes, I'm still very bearish. It doesn't feel like it's going to sell off today, but who knows? We've had several head fakes. If we look at the charts from the last couple of days, we've had like 2 or 3 sessions. Look at the NASDAQ here, because once again, the NASDAQ really, for years and years now, has been driving everything. So look at that up move, just unbelievable. If we go to like a 5-day, you can see it trying to sell off here. Then yesterday it tries to sell off and then just right back up. And if you watch it closely, you can feel people just fear of missing out. Every dip, buying it like crazy. If you watch the stuff trade, there is no fear in most investors' minds. People are just bullish. They're buying it. They're loving it. They're long. They're making money. It's going up. They're loving it. And there's just no fear whatsoever. I don't know what's going to be the thing that changes that, or if it's just going to continue going straight up forever. But it really feels like there's no fear out there. VIX was ticking up earlier today. VVIX, I don't think the VVIX is that significant right now. I think it's back down to a certain level. I think the VIX is somewhat fairly priced. We haven't seen the VIX show any concern lately at all. I mean, yeah, it hasn't moved lower, but it hasn't moved higher on any sort of slight down moves, and we've just had this straight up move. I don't know what can possibly change that, but I'm vigilant and I'm ready to make some moves to the downside here. I was looking at Apple, for example, and I think we will have a retracement at some point. If we look here, I was looking at like a put spread. I was looking at like the 340, 320 put spread. Let me go to an even farther chart here. Okay, so I was looking just to get us back to before where the crisis started, like the 340, 320 put spread in Apple out in September. And my idea is maybe just do really small. If we get a big up day, do really small in some of this. Buy the 340 put, sell the 320 put. It's $3.28. Could be worth $20 if it works out. You could move higher. You could go it's 380 right now, so you could actually go like 360, 340 put spread, right? So that's $5 for something that could be worth 20. I don't think it's unreasonable that we could pull back to 340. I mean, look at where we've come from. Way more valuable company than before the crisis started. So according to this, the COVID is nothing, and this company is just exploding to the upside, and it just seems like we have to get back. Markets come back to rationality at some point, and I believe that will happen here. Same with Tesla. I mean, we just don't see stuff go straight up like this forever. It always comes back at some point. But these are scary things, because in the meantime, I don't want to see people like lose all their money, and then it's happened to me before. You're right, but you don't time it right. And by the time it actually happens, you've lost so much money that you're gun shy. So it's a tough thing to figure out, certainly. But this is kind of just some of the stuff I'm looking at right now. What's up? Thanks for the rational thoughts. What's going on? Yeah, not too many people watching right now. I believe people will check it out later, though. It's kind of like a weird time. I started a little early. Let's take a look at the VIX term structure while we're here. Of course, this being the short vol show. Now, my feeling on the VIX is if we get a pop, I might be interested, but until then, I'm not really interested in doing much. But we were up like a point at one point here. The term structure really focused on the election here, but in the meantime, we do have some contango. This stuff is decaying slowly. The shape does favor long-term shorts. The only concern is, do we get a spike sometime in between? But currently, a healthy term structure. Does this indicate that after the election, vol comes way in? And is that realistic that vol will come way in after the election? Well, it doesn't seem like it if we're still in the midst of this COVID thing. but the market has discounted this COVID stuff so much, and I think it's overdone. I think we're overdone the upside. I said it a zillion times, so I'll stop saying it now. That's kind of where my head is, but maybe you shouldn't follow me because I just got really hurt yesterday trying to short this market and was totally wrong. So this is one trader's viewpoint. Hopefully it helps you in your decisions, even if it being that you do the opposite of me. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll continue to monitor the situation closely. I'm interested in your opinions and comments, so please leave them down below. And thank you for Patreon supporters and for members of this channel. You are much appreciated, and I'm coming up with some goodies for you. So thank you for continuing to support me through this time, and best of luck to everybody, and I will see you next time on the Short Vol Show Live.
You're watching Famous Game.